Shalom, shalom, Yishbakah. This is Jared Yao checking in. Let's go. Okay, this is Jared Yao with Hebrew News. My apologies for the long absence, everybody. I don't really even have an excuse for why I've been absent. It's been a lot of news going on, and it's been a little bit hard to keep up with everything, but we are still rolling. And so what we're talking about today is the attempt by Donald Trump to create a new religion. And I don't think it's an attempt. It's actual fact. It's, what is already established right now. You guys, the people that are following Trump are followers of Trump. They're not Republicans. They're not conservatives. They're not Trumpists. They're disciples, you guys. They are disciples. Trump right now has about 150 million disciples in America right now, you guys. And so you have to recognize that everything that Trump does, everything that Trump says, and what Trump stands for is going to be implemented in the United States without a doubt. And if you guys think that he is giving up his presidency after his term is over, think again, you guys, because you're not dealing with a politician right now. You're dealing with a Messiah. You're literally dealing with a real, true-to-life Messiah for white America, for white supremacy. This is what's going on in the United States right now. You literally have a white supremacist Messiah in the helm, and he is labeling himself, he is identifying himself as such in the media right now. You guys have seen the picture of Trump as the Pope, right? And we all know that the Pope is not any religious figure that holds any righteous value, but is a significant political and religious figure in history, going back now at least 1,700 years. And Donald Trump is, by way of AI, putting himself in the position as the vicar of Christ, is what they call the Pope, the replacement of Christ, you guys. So this is the anti-messianic position that we've been talking about, that the presidential office is in itself the position of anti-Messiah, that he is the top anti-Messiah, and he is for sure walking out that doctrine right in front of everybody, and using religious iconography and religious figures to exemplify that point, to point that out in the modern era, that there is a religion. You guys, you are looking at the religion of Trump. You're looking at the Messiah that is, personified in modern culture as the president, as a movement. You are looking at a fundamental change in America. And I will tell you guys that everyone sees it. Everyone knows this. You guys have got a lot coming your way in America. The way that people are changing, the way that politics in America is changing is so dangerous that it's just like, I guess they call it a stick of dynamite. They call it a powder keg. That is a powder keg waiting to explode. You have actually a real psychological game going on people, white people in America right now, that are falling for this fervor. And I can say all of these things, and we've been saying these things for a long time. It's not just Trump. You remember that? Do you remember, you guys, when Jamie Foxx announced Obama as your Lord and Savior? Your Lord and Savior, Barack Obama. So this is nothing new. it's really the way that modern politics is working. And it's not only modern politics, it's also ancient politics too. We know that during the time of the kings and the queens in England, they would always use religious iconography to solidify their rule over society. I remember reading the book, and it was a good book. It was about the war between the Calvinists and the Catholics in France and in England. And it was about the French king, I believe this was the French king, who accepted Catholicism, or was a Calvinist at one point, and then changed over and accepted Catholicism, and then held a parade through the streets and was like being held up, and also held what was a piece of, in their mind, religious iconography. I think it was a piece of wood that was said to have been passed down from the cross of Messiah, and he held it and was seen weeping over it, and it took the people's hearts, right? So, well, this is such a pious man that him being in contact with this piece of wood, the piece of wood probably came with some driftwood somewhere from some river. We know it wouldn't have been an actual piece of wood from the cross. This is just something that they've made up. And the spiritual power behind the concept of Messiah then becomes embedded into the icon, and then becomes embedded into the person that is, showing all of this emotion, showing all of this, religious piety and false emotion towards this icon, that you're literally taking on the attributes of the ideas that the icon represents. Do you see what I'm saying? He did this on purpose as a piece of political propaganda to justify and solidify his reign as king. They say, oh, well, he's such a pious king that he's crying over the Messiah's, he's crying for Messiah, holding on to this piece of I guess you could call it, artifact, holding on to this artifact. And it's there's a name for it. I can't remember what it is, but we can call it religious iconography. And this is what Donald Trump is doing right now, that he's actually, putting in, by using AI you guys have seen where he's, the AI image that was generated of him being the Pope. And then he actually came on the news and said, I'd like to be Pope. I mean, just wild stuff, you guys. When in the world have you ever seen a president mocking a religious community, or attempting to, even in jest, say that he wants to control the religious community? You never hear anybody saying that in the past before, but you have it now, because Trump is building a religion around himself. And this is the proof right here. And I can say it in so many words, but let me tell you, these guys are saying it better than I am. It looks like I've got a little stain on my shirt there. It's a little bit of a stain on my shirt. Let's hide that stain. But it's not just me saying these things. And of course, we've been talking about this for a very long time. But now, this is mainstream understanding. Now, you've got MSNBC that is coming out and saying these same things. I want you guys to watch this video with me, and we're just going to really quickly discuss what this video is talking about, even though it'll be very clear and very obvious that everything that they're saying in this video is true. You know how one side fights against the other, and even though both sides are religions in their own, the liberals have a religion too. The religion of liberalism. The conservatives have a religion, and now it used to be the conservative Christian right. Now it's disciples of Trump, just plain and simple disciples of Trump. So I can talk all day about this, but let's let these talking heads discuss back and forth what is actually happening here in the country of America. And of course, I'm talking about there, not here, but what is happening in America.
Donald Trump apparently thinks it is really cute to pretend that he could be the next pope. So much so, he posted this AI image of himself as the pontiff, and doing it while the Vatican and the Catholic world are still in mourning. It is a move that any other politician or public figure would be vilified for. The Catholic bishops of New York State were not amused, saying, quote, "There is nothing clever or funny about this image, Mr. President. Do not mock us."
Because that's exactly what he's doing. He is mocking the Catholic Church, but in a greater scam or scheme or propaganda tool, he's putting himself in the position as quote unquote the holiest man on earth. See, this is the position that 1 billion people believe to be the case. You guys, there's 1 billion Catholics in the world right now. 1 billion. And the Pope is the leader of all those people. He is the replacement of Messiah in this world according to the Catholic religion. And for 1700 years, a bunch of Christians have believed that. All Christians have believed that up until about the 14 or 1500s when you had the Protestant Reformation or the Protestant Revolution with Luther and Calvin, right? You know that there were wars and people that were killed, lots and lots and lots of people that were killed based on this struggle between Catholicism and Protestantism in the Magogite Church is what we would call it. And so with that understanding of the Pope being the holiest person on earth, according to 1 billion Catholic Christians, you have President Trump putting himself in that position as the holiest man on earth, at least in his propaganda, you guys. So let's just take a look.
The president was asked about the post at the White House earlier.
I had nothing to do with it. Somebody made up a picture of me dressed like the Pope, and they put it out on the internet. That's not me that did it. I have no idea where it came from. Somebody did it in fun.
Okay, so, I mean, that is to say a lot because it was posted on the official White House platform. So it was an official statement by the White House. And if you say you don't know who did it and all of this craziness, that's just a lie because this is clearly signaling in a certain direction and clearly is meant to, both stir up anger and resentment in some people and then admiration in others. Do you see what I'm saying? As a psychological tool, even, nobody recognizes him as the Pope. Everybody knows that he is not going to be in that position. But the image itself is tool enough for people to have that concept in their mind. Just like the piece of wood, just like the icon that, the artifact that is used. I believe they called it an artifact in this book. And I've got to find this book so I can read it again. It was such an excellent book. It was written by a woman who was an expert in the war between the Catholics and the Protestants. And there was it was a Bloody Monday where 20,000 Calvinists were killed. And it was one of the queens from... what family was that? It's a famous Italian family. And the queen was supposedly stepping over the dead bodies of the Calvinists. The king at that time had said that I will do a mass for the throne. This was a marriage between these two. I can't remember the name of the Italian family, but I'll have to get you guys the name of that book and that family here so I can get everything accurate here. But just like in, 400 or 500 years ago in ancient times where they used religious iconography in order to stir the population into belief and admiration, this is what he's doing. Even as a joke, even as comedy, it is a powerful, powerful, powerful tool of psychological programming, you guys.
It's fine. Have to have a little fun.
A little fun. Again, any other public figure, politician would be vilified. The whole episode seems like another, though, in a long line of would-be contradictions or offenses that his religious supporters shrug off. Joining us now, New York Times columnist David French, and back with us, Doug Heye and Cornell Belcher. So, David, you're writing about the Christian right. I know that that's not Catholics, but you do have a line in here that I think is will help explain what's happening. And you say this: another way of putting it is that the religious right has divorced itself from historical Christian theology, but still holds its partisan beliefs with religious intensity.
Do you hear that? Still holds its partisan beliefs with religious intensity. That they've literally divorced themselves from biblical concepts and understanding, but have transferred that intense mindset over to their politics and policies. So instead of worshiping through the Bible, now they're worshiping through politics. And instead of following Messiah, now they're following Donald Trump. They're not following Messiah Yahusha. They're not even following the false concept of Jesus. They're following Donald Trump and literally putting the Bible down in place of this political ideology, but pretending as if it and the Bible are the same thing. Literally putting the Bible down, picking up the religious ideology of Republican right-wingism and holding that as their new religious doctrine in the name of biblical understanding, in the name of religious understanding, instead of in deed and in act, in the name. And so it's literally transferring the energy that is associated with biblical belief to Trump. So let's keep watching.
The religious fervor is there, Christian virtues or not, are not. Explain.
Yeah. Well, what you're seeing in the religious right supporting Trump is, where are you finding Christian virtues in the Trump movement right now? Where are you finding them? How do you see them? They're not there. They're just not there. But what is there is he's giving access to an awful lot of Christian conservative figures. And so they get access, they get to be in the room where it happens, so they're close to power and they love it. But they're not advancing any kind of Christian theology. They're not advancing any sort of Christian worldview. And this Pope situation is...
You see, they're all praying around Trump. They're all praying around Trump with their hands on. This is what this picture is showing, what this image is showing. I wish I could.
Is really in.
I wish I could get this. Now, how do I? My apologies, you guys. But you see that they're all praying and laying hands on Trump, with Trump being in the middle here. And clearly this is a posed for picture, but also it is similar in appearance to the Last Supper. Do you guys remember that artwork that came out of the Renaissance, the Last Supper, with all of the disciples around quote unquote Jesus? And this is, the white depiction of our Messiah. And they're not praying, but they're all, with their attention on him around a long table. This iconography, even that they're showing you right now, is symbolizing that event, this same understanding. Hold on one second, you guys. It sounds like my boys are playing around in there. It looks like they've stopped. But yeah, you guys can see the imagery here that is just fostering so many religious ideas. Not ideals, but ideas. In fact, they're putting the ideals down and accepting the standpoint of Trump, which is clearly anti-biblical and anti-messianic, you guys.
Indicative of what we're dealing with. We're dealing with nothing that's actual respectful to Catholicism at all. He's just playing around with it. He's joking with it.
So what do they believe?
Well,
what is the fervor?
The fervor is very anti-left. There's no question about this. This is where the tech right and the barstool right and the Christian right all join. They're very anti-left. But if you look at the historic positions of the Christian conservative movement, placing a high value on the pro-life movement, yet Trump had the most watered-down platform in generations, placing a high value in personal character. Read what Baptists said about character in politicians in the Clinton era. And all of that is just gone. It is now gone, and it's about power, and it's about opposing the left.
So it reminds me of the book that Tim Alberta wrote, trying to explain what happened to his church in an era of Trump. And one of the ways he does so is by saying that they believe that when the barbarians are at the gate, you need a barbarian to fight back against you. And what I'm getting from you is you don't really believe that the barbarians aren't, the traditional barbarians. It's just, I don't like the left.
Oh, it's very anti-left. I mean, look,
so Donald Trump wouldn't be a barbarian in this scenario.
Well, and think about how contrary this is to the example of Jesus, because Jesus comes to ancient Israel when it's under Roman occupation, where the people of Israel are deeply oppressed, and he doesn't come and overthrow the government. He doesn't come and rule in the way that these Christian right people want to rule. He comes in and he loves other people, he serves other people, and he even forgives the people who are executing him as they're executing him.
I just want to point out to you guys that we are watching a real reversal in American politics right now. You've actually got MSNBC saying the term Jesus on the air, which is, as far as I knew, at one point, it was something that they were, the left political, media hemisphere. It's something that I have been, in my research, I found that they weren't even allowed to say the term Jesus. And so now, with an anti-Messiah in the White House that is promoting himself, almost literally promoting himself as an anti-Messiah, as a replacement for Messiah, you have the people that are pro-trans, pro-abortion, which is, of course, murder, pro-racism, not racism, this is the other side, pro-trans, pro-gay, pro-abortion. You've got the side that seems the most satanic on the outside looking in, that is actually, using the Bible to show how Trump is using the Bible. Do you see what I'm saying? It's a true reversal of politics right here to have MSNBC talking about the Messiah, Yahushua. They're using the term Jesus, of course, but they mean Yahushua, and they mean the figure in history, in the Bible, that is righteous, that is coming to save the people that follow him. Using that as an example for the counterexample of Trump. And then all of these people on the right, all of this Christian right-wing policy, or people that are leaving biblical policy and accepting Trump policy, which is, I will just go ahead and say it, nothing but white supremacy. They are leaving biblical understanding for white supremacy. That's what Trump stands for. That's what he's implementing. That's what he's doing, and he's doing it in a religious way. The other person that did that? Hitler, you guys. The other person that did that was Hitler. Let's keep going.
And yet you look at this Christian right, the MAGA Christian right, it is will to power, it is cruelty, it is dominance. Look how they applaud as Trump is cruel to immigrants, just vicious, depriving them of their constitutional rights. Nothing about this is drawn from historic Christian theology.
So when Donald Trump says he could be the Messiah, I mean, does he have a point with his supporters?
Well, it's interesting when you see this collision between supporting Donald Trump and, say, a commitment to character, and they choose to support Donald Trump. It tells you what's most important, doesn't it? And so what Trump has done is he's exposed for an awful lot of people that a lot of the Christian right, the Christianity was a facade behind which was hidden this will to power, this desire.
So I have never in life heard any of this religious talk on MSNBC ever. Even when I was a voting Democrat way back, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, never ever did, when I watched MSNBC, never ever did I hear this much religious talk. What they literally said is that Trump exposed Christian politics. Trump exposed the Christian right for literally just being a white power institution. That instead of following the Bible, instead of following the principles and values that Messiah stood for, they've let all that go in the name of Trump. They've pretended to not let it go, but they have. They've let it all go. They've let character go down the drain. They let mercy go down the drain. They let loving your neighbor go down the drain in replacement of, with the replacement of divisive, sinister, and white supremacist policies, which clearly exposes the right-wing Christian white evangelicals as white supremacists, Nazis. Let's keep going, you guys.
Desire to dominate. And so he's figured this out. And so when he lets these people into the Oval Office, when he lets them into the inner sanctum, he's giving them exactly what they truly wanted, which was the access to power.
So Cornell, to bring you into this, that is a level of devotion that is hard to break with a policy. I mean, that's a devotion to not just one party now, one man, because Donald Trump is the Republican Party. When you're trying to find a way to win against that, how do you win against a religious fervor that's embodied by one person?
You can't, and you don't. And look, I love.
Now, his appearance aside, he's right. The question was, how do you win a political game when someone literally is the embodiment himself of all religious fervor on one side? You don't have that on the opposite, except for this guy right here. That's why in the future it may come up again to where that Obama would actually run again. If Trump, figures out a way to legally run for a third term, and it's not just like a hostile takeover. Who knows which one it'll be. Maybe he finds a legal loophole where he can run for a third term. But if that's the case, then Obama would be able to run again. And then you'd have literally the two most polarizing figures in, at this point, all of American politics running against each other. A black man and a white man with two religions behind them. Because I'll tell you, when I was voting for Barack Obama, I was voting for him in almost a religious sense. It was almost as if he could do nothing wrong. And I heard Jamie Foxx when he said, "Now I bring to the stage your Lord and Savior, Barack Obama," and people were yelling and screaming and cheering. And I heard that, and I thought to myself, that's a funny joke. Because, of course, Jamie Foxx is saying it. But it wasn't a joke. Barack Obama was also pictured in religious iconography, so they were building a religion around him as well. And they really played a foil one to another between, Trump being the Messiah and then Obama being the devil, or reverse, Obama being the Messiah and Trump being the devil. Do you see what I'm saying? They're literally framing the race war around the politicians that they are presenting to you. And they are presenting to white America Trump as being the self-proclaimed Messiah who people, it appears, will fight and die to protect. Not only him, but also his bloodline. You're looking at a very rough time coming to America, you guys. You're looking at a hard few years coming up, you guys. Let's just keep going here.
David's writing here, but as someone who grew up in the South and in and out of Southern churches and understanding the long history of what evangelical, white evangelicalism has meant in the South, there is a tribal element to it, right? There absolutely I would argue that there is absolutely a tribal element to it, and he is their tribal strongman that goes beyond that. And look, there's always been a tinge of
You see what somebody has written in their Bible right here? Thank God for Trump. And look where they're at right here. They're at the book of Joshua. So this will be the last of Deuteronomy, the last of the Torah right here. And then the Israelites are going into the promised land and conquering the promised land. You see, this is where the war starts right here. The war for the promised land. And they have, thank God for Trump, written at the beginning of it right here. And so I don't know if this is Robert Kennedy or not. It looks like him. It might not be. But regardless of who this person is, the message is very clear that this is white supremacy fighting for their promised land, you guys. This is replacement theology at its psychological finest, you guys, because literally what they've done is put white evangelical Christians as Israel and Donald Trump as Joshua, Yahusha ben Nun, and Yahusha ben Elohim, and they are all at this point willing to fight for America, their promised land. You guys, you are talking about a dangerous combination of ideas and elements that is being fomented and fostered in America right now. So much so that it screams warfare. And to be honest with you, I'm surprised it's not more violent than it already is. Hallelujah for that we still have time, you guys. Let's keep going here.
Of nationalism and that piece as well. And look, he's overwhelmingly won white evangelicals in his last two elections. In in 2020, he overwhelmingly won them and lost. And the latest election, he overwhelmingly won them and got a plurality. This is a core group of voters who are not going to move away from Donald Trump because Democrats come up with a better economic policy. Because they're not supporting him because of his economic policies. They support his economic policies because they support him.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And David, one other thing that you write about is just the struggle to figure out where the party came from and what the ultimate goal was. Not the party, the white evangelicals, and that the critics would say they were just there to protect segregation. There were racist roots, and people who didn't believe that said no, it really was about fundamental life issues.
Right.
Protect.
Do you hear what she just said? She just said the history of white evangelical voting and politics has always been about white supremacy. That there was an internal group that fooled themselves into thinking that it was about other things like character, like standing up, for your neighbor, standing up for what you believe in, more biblical and, Christian, quote unquote, Christian values. But what she said is that this, white evangelical base, which claimed to be Christian, is actually just white supremacy. She called it right there that it's white supremacy and not even Christianity. We know that the religion of the Bible is not called Christianity. That is called Nazarene-ism, the branches. We recognize that Christianity is a whole different animal, and it's always been used for power and political gain. Always. That's what Christianity itself was designed to do, was universally control all groups of people through this religious system. Whereas Nazarene-ism, the following of Yahusha, the Messiah, and the worship of Yahweh Elohim Yisrael, the Father, is different from Christianity. And in the modern era, Trump has usurped that Christian concept, of control that it was, based around, that it was designed for, and then funneled that energy in this group towards himself. This is what Hitler did in Germany, you guys. This is how Hitler dominated politics as a dictator in Germany. So let's just see what they're getting ready to say now. This is, he's getting ready to admit that he was fooled by the rhetoric and that it actually is just white supremacy and nothing to do with Christianity, nothing to do with biblical anything, nothing to do with Nazism at all. Let's just watch.
Protecting life, protecting an unborn child, and social, religious issues. Where are you on that now?
Well, look, where I am is I was mistaken. When I was growing up within the evangelical conservative movement, I believed the story we told ourselves, which was this is a movement deeply rooted in Christian values, concern and care for the vulnerable, deeply rooted in a commitment to Christian character and to Christian charity, kindness, gentleness, humility, virtues like this. And so when Donald Trump came down the escalator, I had the mistaken impression that we had strong antibodies against this kind of man. But instead, evangelicals often fell in line very willingly, very early on. And it turns out that a lot of the critics who are outside of the evangelical conservative movement saw it more clearly than I did inside it. They saw it as focused on power. They saw it as willing to compromise values. I did not see it that way.
But it wasn't just white evangelicals. I mean, it was the Republican Party who said there's no way that this guy can win. He's going after our veterans. That's anathema to GOP politics. So it was white evangelicals, but then it was also a lot of mainstream Republicans.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, it started in not just when he took the escalator ride down, but in previous incarnations when he would visit Iowa and things like that in 2012 or even before, where it was seen as a joke. But he had a message that ultimately sold to a lot of the party faithful, which was the game. This is all a game. It's all a con, and I understand it. And a lot of Republicans didn't want to hear that or didn't believe it. And so we were caught by surprise by it, caught absolutely flat-footed, no doubt. And the other thing is, though, we should remember.
Yeah, caught by surprise is one thing, but following it because it promotes white supremacy is another. And that's actually what they're doing. They're calling it Christianity. They're calling it evangelical politics. But what it actually is white supremacy, you guys. And that is what it's showing in the actions that Trump is doing right now. Everything that Trump is doing is in support of what people believe to be white supremacy. It's actually in support of white, upper class business, right? This is the technocracy that Elon Musk's family was implementing into the government of Canada, the government of South Africa, that they were all behind what this concept was that was called a technocracy, which is actually corporations and billionaires and board members that were running governments instead of the governments themselves, that they were literally trying to switch governments from being controlled by the people to being controlled by economics and by corporations. That's the technocracy. This is what they are actually trying to implement now with Elon Musk, and I believe that they have been successful at doing that. And Trump as their lead man, steering the people towards religious fervor, but actually changing the government into an oppressive, oligarchy, is just right, for the times here. Because we know that the beast system in Revelation 13 and then also in other places is run by a single person who is worshipped. Do you understand what I'm saying? The setup for the end of the world, new world order society is literally being created right before our eyes. We all know this. We all recognize this and see this as believers in the Bible, whether it be, people who are Trump supporters or people who recognize what's going on. They have willingly and knowingly sacrificed their belief for white supremacy. And this guy is saying that it fooled him. But now that it's in the forefront, just can't really get away with believing in this way anymore. It's been very clear for a very, very long time. They just said that the Republican, leadership really was mocking President Trump's ideology way back in 2012. And I believe he switched from being a Democrat to a Republican around that time. And then he also, long time ago, said that, hey, if I ever ran for president, I'd run as a Republican because the Republicans are so unintelligent. Sound like the dogs are barking out there. But yes, let's go ahead and finish. There's only a few moments left.
Remember, church attendance is down. And so those people who've left the flock, whether that's Catholicism or not, they need a place to go.
They
And
go
for
to a
lot of
Trump
them,
rally.
They go to political rallies. And for a lot of them, that's Trump. And politics is a new religion in a way that it wasn't 10 years ago, certainly 20 years ago.
All right.
Politics is the new religion. You guys repeat that. Politics is the new religion. Whether you're on the left or whether you're on the right, you are being set up to be funneled into one of two opposing religions that see the other side as the devil, you guys. If you believe Trump to be the devil, you're right. But if you believe Obama to be the Messiah, you're wrong. If you believe Obama to be the devil, you're right. But if you believe Trump to be the Messiah, then you're also wrong. You're being led not into a classic religion. You're being led into a war. Just like the Calvinists and the Calvinists and the Catholics, the Protestants and the Catholics, 500 years ago in England, 500 years ago in France, 500 years ago in Italy, you are being led into a war. And the war that was back then, where the Calvinists were destroyed 20,000 at a time, is one that popped up overnight. And it was run by royal celebrities. It was fomented by preachers in the pulpit, and it was executed by government officials, you guys. It was executed by government officials. I wish I had the name of that book so I could tell you guys. I'm gonna have to go and look it up. It was an excellent book, and it really showed how both sides played political iconography, played propaganda, played psychological games, and stirred up a genocide. That's what you're looking at right now, the stirring of an incoming genocide. And anytime you have an incoming genocide, you better watch, because it's usually the Hebrews that are on the brunt end of the sword in this genocide, you guys. In these genocides. We've already been a part of the American genocide going back 400 years. Now this war again is about us. It's about our role. Whether or not America is going to heed to, Hebrews or not. That's what this is about right now. And it is just icing on the cake that people are waking up to recognize that they are Hebrews, that Black Americans are waking up to recognize that they are the Israelites of the Bible. Here you have in Babylon in the 21st century a religious war with us at its core, at its center. You guys, if you think white supremacy is the only concept here, we care about whiteness, that's not the case. It's that we don't like blackness. It's not even that whiteness is also good, it's that they don't like blackness. White supremacy is black destruction, is black inferiority. That's the concept that they're dealing with here. That's what they're fighting for here. And the other side, the liberal side, is including black people in its struggle, but it's also including every form of wickedness on the planet, you guys. Do you understand that the war that's being waged here is a religious one and people don't know it? Let's keep watching. I think this is it, though.
All right, smartest conversation of the day. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me on this. I appreciate it. David, so good to see you in person.
Okay, that's the end of it here, you guys. So, again, we have to understand that we are not wrestling against flesh and blood. We are wrestling against demons that come in the form of ideas, you guys. And those ideas are able to shift people's direction one to another. This is Yerid Yah with Hebrew News, you guys. Shalom, shalom. Please be safe. Be vigilant out there. Stay in Torah. Stay believing in Messiah. Stay prayed up, because you've got some hard times coming. Shalom, shalom.